Now let's look at Tâmîêl. Are you ready to hear about a different kind of evil from these entities? He's one of the worst in my opinion. Tâmîêl, known as Kâsdejâ in some areas, is more darker and explicitly and obviously evil with no redeeming qualities. All of these are fallen angels. This one is one of the most evil on a human level. The way the English version of the text describes it is as follows. He showed the children of men the wicked smitings of spirits and demons, and the smiting of the embryo in the womb, that it may pass away, and the smiting of the soul. He taught the bites of the serpent, and the smitings which befall men in the noontide heat. The son of the serpent, named Tabââ. Essentially, this entity showed through both spiritual and physical methods how to kill people. This entity could have been behind Exodus 1:22, which states, "The Pharaoh commanded all of his people, every son born to the Hebrews shall be thrown into the Nile, but he shall let every daughter live." This directive from Pharaoh was a result of concern about the growing population of Hebrew slaves in Egypt and his desire to control and oppress them. But it was really kind of stupid, because if you wanted to keep a slave population down and keep good workers, why would you kill the males? But anyway, they may have had a different use for female slaves. In Babylonian mythology, the god Moloch is worshipped and characterized by aberrant practice of child sacrifice, which is where the fallen angel Kâsdejâ promoted the murder of children. Both cases, parents voluntarily choosing to murder their own children. The Canaanite god Baal, sometimes associated with the rituals involving fertility and sacrifice. Some historical accounts and interpretations suggest that child sacrifice may have been practiced as part of this worship. Sobek was depicted as a crocodile or crocodile-headed man in Egyptian mythology. He was associated with the Nile River and its fertile aspects. He's often viewed as powerful and potentially dangerous entity. In some ancient Egyptian texts and beliefs, Sobek is believed to be associated with ferocious appetites, including the consumption of human children. Now, Kronos is said to have consumed his children to maintain power. Saturn also consumed his children to maintain power. This power could represent freedom and share resources, but after all, his way of life was in danger of being overthrown. But that does not excuse him. Now, this evil entity throughout time worked to murder human children, either directly through convincing humans or by going after them himself. This is not an acceptable process or practice. Why? Well, for one, it's the ultimate putting yourself before your children. You're literally murdering them to make your life easier, which is pathetic and selfish. This practice is nothing new either. The Canaanites would burn their children as sacrifices to their gods. The Romans had a law that permitted them to murder children from birth through adulthood for reasons such as physical or mental defects or simple disobedience. Some Middle Eastern nations had the dishonorable practice of so-called honor killings that extended to their own children who spoke out against them or for several other reasons. Modern Western practices include legalized abortion for decades now. Some deplorable leaders in our nation have even made the practice in other nations, have made the practice mandatory, depending on how many children you already have. In the ancient world, people were murdering children both preborn and post-birth. Not that there's any difference. And they almost always did this as a sacrifice to make their own lives better. In modern days, this teaching makes them directly responsible for the murder of 73 million preborn human beings every single year. 73 million every year. Let's put that in perspective how bad that is. I know this is kind of controversial to say, but that is literally worse than the Holocaust, going by numbers. 73 million per year, every year for decades now. That's around the world. That's not just in the United States. This is generally justified by those who do it, that it'll make their life easier and allow them to escape the consequences of their own sin. When it comes to sexual sin, anything from extramarital consensual sex to less than consensual encounters, sin is sin. Technically, lust is a sin. And I'm not calling anyone out here claiming anybody's above or below that. It's just a good example of a common area that a lot of humans struggle with. And this fallen angel exploited that and used it to set up situations to cause people to murder other people. In fact, it's not a biology textbook, but I'm assuming that you understand the difference between male and female, as well as what can happen when they come together. When sperm meets egg, new genetic code, new DNA is formed. That makes that a new and unique human being. That genetic code is new and unique. Now, before they meet, the sperm and egg is just parts of the mother and father, respectively. Or egg and sperm are parts of the mother and father, respectively. Once they meet, there's new code and a new unique person. From the moment of conception, a new code is written, all the way till the elderly body gives out. A human being is a human being.